What's going on, Pinball Land? Welcome. It's episode number 1. That is 01 of the Flip N Out Pinball podcast. My name's Ken Cromwell, and with me today, my co-host, Greg Bone. Greg, what is going on?
Man, Ken, I am just happy to be back here, and I am so happy to hear you back on the microphone again.
Oh, thank you, man. You know what? It's been an honor and a privilege to call you my close personal friend for so long, and I've always had so much admiration for you and what you've done with Straight Down the Middle, with Flipping Out, and as a pinball ambassador, a goodwill pinball ambassador. So for me, it's an honor to kind of get back in the driver's seat and rock a podcast out with you, man. I appreciate it.
Well, dude, you know I super appreciate that. And hey, for all you listeners out there who are not familiar with Ken Cromwell, so Ken Cromwell, and Ken, I know that you'll probably disagree with this, but Ken, I kind of consider you, hey, there was the OOGs, there was people before you, there were people before us, but we all kind of started around that same time, and I still consider you one of the OGs of podcasting and stuff. You know, Ken had a very, very popular show years ago before he went off into the corporate pinball world and left us media, scum behind. And, he was part of a Special When Lit podcast, which was an absolute amazing podcast. And then Ken also did, for Flipping Out, the Flipping Out Pinball stream. You guys did, what was it? The Monday Night Pinball. That was kind of like a Monday Night Football type thing, but it was Monday Night Pinball. That was so fun, man. That was like the place to be. We had industry guests coming in and being interviewed and playing live. And, at that time we had our little after hours going. We had call-ins. That was a really fun time in pinball streaming for me personally. But, everything's evolved. You were talking about the next wave of people after the OGs. That was like version 2.0. And I think right now we're in that version 3.0 of pinball content creation, which is interesting. It is fun to play a part of and come back out of retirement. Well, it is amazing to have you back, sir.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it, and I wanted to thank, officially again, everybody, Zach and Nicole Meny, and you, of course, for welcoming me with open arms at Flippin' Out, coming from Jersey Jack Pinball, where I spent the last 5 years of my little pinball career. I am spreading the wings and taking it another direction, and I can't wait, man, so it's going to be a good time. But we're here for a reason. This podcast, we're looking to put out every couple of weeks, just offering kind of our individual perspectives, things that are happening in the industry, things that are topical. We might even, sway a little bit on some side missions. But today's topic was impromptu because, full disclosure here, we weren't really planning on having this podcast out so soon. But what happened, Greg?
We got an announcement for Predator.
Yes, we did.
Pinball Brothers Predator. Long-awaited Predator.
Yes. So let me ask you, and again, because this is a first impression podcast, and look, we're not going to do a deep dive here. We're going to try to zip this up in 15 minutes or less, give you something snackable and something to kind of, wet your whistle, so to speak. But Predator as a theme, what are your feelings on it?
I think it couldn't get any better. It's one of those things that I know that you've got a couple people in this hobby that will talk about, you got these old man themes and you got all this stuff. But, the reality of the entire situation is nostalgia sells. Nostalgia still sells. And,
yes.
What better do you get than Predator? You've got Arnold, Jesse Ventura, Carl Weathers. I mean, you just got some amazing, insane personalities in this. And, it was just something that we grew up with. It was just kind of something, it was a film that was ingrained in our childhood. Some of these actors were ingrained in our childhood and stuff. So it's like, I think it's a thoughtless theme, like you got to have it.
Right. I think it definitely hits the pinball demographic, which, arguably can anywhere be between maybe late 30s to mid to late 60s. And this is one of those movies that, you grew up at some point watching Predator and repeating the lines and having fun with the movie. So it definitely checks that box. When you're out and you're looking for a game to play, you're usually looking for something that you're familiar with or something that made you happy in the past. And Predator definitely, in my opinion, is a great selection.
Couldn't agree more.
So our first impression of the game, outside of just knowing what the title was going to be, was really getting a first look of that cabinet artwork. That was kind of one of the first things that was given to us to kind of take a look at. And, I've got my thoughts on that, but I wanted to hear where you're coming from as far as what was your first impression of that overall exterior art package?
So, I think, I don't know if I'm in the minority or not on this. It's something that... But God, man, I'm so passionate about this, though. Like, I'm just so... I love some of the vibrance and I love the artwork on a lot of what these modern pinball machines are. But at the same time, it gets a little redundant with some of the vibrancy and some of the stuff. So when I saw this cabinet pop out, and it literally truly held the essence of the jungle, and it kind of held that essence of Predator and so forth, and just it felt like the film. That back glass looks like the film. It was refreshing to me. And again, I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but to me, I was just happy to see something that was, had, I don't even know how that you would explain the coloring of that when you don't blow something out like that. But, it's like that natural feel.
Yeah, I think natural is about as great as you could call it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what was your take on it? Are you different? Are you one of those colorful people?
Yeah, you know what? It's hard. Well, yeah, I think I am. I usually can appreciate something that's a little more vivid, but I noticed that kind of my opinion on that ebbs and flows based on where I'm at in my collectability factor. And I think, you were talking about how you appreciated that it wasn't completely blown out, oversaturated. I think at some point, I just became very conditioned to just expect that with a pinball art package. And when I saw Predator, where it does have it's got some popping colors, it's not just over the top. And I think the thing that immediately I realized was, am I a little bit let down because this is more of like a lot of greens and jungle theme and that sort of thing? And I didn't want to get Raven vibes, which is, a pinball machine that's older. No disrespect to anybody that was on that project, but it's just, for me, and I feel comfortable talking about this respectfully. I mean, artwork is very subjective. And with me being the subject of a pinball machine, I'm going to let you know if the art calls to me or not.
Exactly, you have to.
But you know what, yeah, for sure. And pleasantly, after kind of taking it all in, like a lot of those concerns were set at ease, and I became very appreciative of the art package, especially when you consider how it kind of spills into the playfield.
Yeah. I agree, because that is one thing. But it's like you said, like it could have been that very Raven-esque feel to it. I mean, it very much could have been too much green. It very much could have been just too much of the palm leaves and too much of the jungle. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, like when you roll over,
I didn't want it to look like a Microsoft screensaver or something.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, here we got a bunch of palms.
I'm not saying that I wasn't scared leading up to the reveal of it. Like I very much was. I very much share your sentiment on that. But again, they got that map in there on that playfield and stuff. You got the skulls, obviously breaking stuff up, the bloody skulls and stuff. So yeah, I'm not mad at it, man. It actually is just a very cohesive, actually kind of a nice art package. I mean, it's one of those things, Ken. It's like what you said about Raven. You get terrified about that because there's only so much you can do when something is set in the jungle, right, and it's all green and brown. like what do you do to break that up?
100%. One of the things you'll notice right away is that the cabinet, the side art, left, right, and then the translate. Obviously, you've got the Predator font logo that's plastered across the side there with some nice background images. You don't have any characters, so we don't see anything with the exception of the Predator that's in the back box above the LCD and underneath the Predator logo. What are your thoughts about not using characters on the side? Because from what I've been following, there are those that just prefer to have kind of the name of the game on the side. Then there are those that want to have assets that are going to tie them into that cabinet art package. Did that have any concern that that you didn't see Arnold Schwarzenegger, for instance?
Oh my God, yeah, man. I mean, that was a huge concern. So it's like immediate first impressions on seeing that cabinet. You sit there and you go, okay, I actually like this. It looks really good. The Predator looks phenomenal on there. But where's Arnold? I mean, Arnold is that centerpiece. I mean, Arnold is that thing. And then you get to the playfield and you look around and there's none of the characters. There is no Arnold again. So, you really question, where is he? Like, what is this? Because, and this sounds very, it's almost hypocritical in a sense. I don't know why it's different. I think I know why it's different. But, when you take something like Alien and they didn't have Sigourney Weaver, I honestly was not upset about that because that game, it encompassed the world so much and you felt like that you were a part of Alien so well that you just didn't miss her that bad being on there. But with this, man, because I think Alien was a little bit more of, man, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard because Sigourney Weaver is obviously phenomenal in Alien.
Well, sure. I mean, she's the star power of that movie franchise. That being said, I think a lot of that movie franchise is kind of setting a tone and creating a feeling of fear and tension.
Yes.
And I think that's where that game, Alien, really shined. It shined a lot because it was able to kind of replicate those feelings and create that ambience on the playfield in that game.
But with this and not having Arnold, it becomes a concern because Arnold was that movie. I mean, Arnold being larger than life, and a lot of these guys, Jesse Ventura and a lot of these guys being so much, their personalities are so large, and the call outs and just the different things. I won't say it was like a cliche, over the top action movie, but it kind of was more than Alien. So you kind of relied on Arnold, the muscles, the stature, his personality to really carry that film. And I think that maybe that's the separation of why that it can be kind of hard to not have Arnold in there, sort of thing. But after seeing the trailer and everything, I'm not as upset because the game looks good.
Essentially, Pinball Brothers is saying that, hey, yeah, you've got Arnold in these clips, but, full transparency, there aren't any extreme close-ups with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So you're gonna see him.
Yes.
I don't know how else he's implemented within the game as far as any call-outs or clips or things like that. That still is kind of yet to be revealed. And look,
it's like what you talked about when we were talking before when we first saw all this. You were like, it's just going to be his ankles.
Yeah.
Do we see Arnold running?
I don't know what the fee is for Arnold's ankles or his legs, but coming from industry side of things and just having a unique perspective of seeing how licensing works itself out over the last 5 years, there's several different factors that go into a license when it comes to even one individual. So, for instance, and I would assume this is how it's working over at every pinball company. If you want to have Arnold, you're gonna have to negotiate a license for him to be on the artwork. Then you're gonna have to negotiate a license if you're gonna show him in any of the videos. Then you're gonna have to negotiate a license if you're gonna use any of his voice from the movies. Then you might have to have another license that has his audio synced with those movie clips. So it's not like, hey, we got Arnold, and then you're just able to put them in. And then the other thing is this, right? Then let's say you have all those assets. Well, guess what? If you're going to do any marketing with that promo video, you're going to probably have to have another license that includes him in there. So it's a multi-step process, and it's an onion that keeps peeling and peeling and peeling. And there's a lot of star power in this movie with Jesse Ventura. You've got Carl Weathers. So I'll be curious to see what they were able to get to kind of make the game as complete as possible. But I completely agree that, when we were talking about the ambience of the game and we were referencing Alien, by visuals, it looks like they did a really good job of theme integration to make you feel like you're in a jungle and you're taking part of the Predator movie.
Oh, yeah, you're not wrong. And you touching on Alien, I mean, you bring up a good point there with that again. If it's anything like Alien, because I still look at Alien as being one of the most, one of the games that just draws you in the most. I mean, it is all encompassing. Like, you feel like that you're a part of that world, and it almost, it's almost unsettling sometimes if you're playing that game in the dark, just because of what it projects and makes you feel like you're part of that world. And
I love that.
If they can do that with this game, they do it with the call outs, they do it with the music, they do it with everything again. I think it could be a sleeper game. Like, even though that you're missing Arnold for almost 90% of it, and you're just getting some faraway shots of him, it's something that could come back and be like, okay, this is a pretty damn cool game, man. Like,
sure.
I know it's missing him, but it's still Predator. It still feels like you're in that jungle. I don't. I mean, only time will tell.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's too close for us to call as far as if that's going to have an impact or how it's going to be impacted, because honestly, nobody has seen the whole package and how it's put together. And, not to set any false expectations, but Sigourney Weaver eventually was tied into the Alien license. So I'm not saying that there's going to be more prominent or anything added down the road, but there's always that possibility. And when we're talking about the playfield, I wanted to take a different approach. If you're all right with it, Greg, I don't want to necessarily go over every single shot or the playfield left to right. From somebody that's stepping up to the machine, I wanted to kind of go over some of the things that called our attention right away and talk about those. And And look, this is not a visual podcast, and pinball is a very visual thing. So I would encourage you at this point, if you get a chance, go over to flippinoutpinball.com, and you can click on Predator, and you can see a lot of the images of the mechs and the toys that we're talking about. So you can go to flippinoutpinball.com, click on Predator, and you'll have a better idea and understanding from a visual standpoint. But when you were there, Greg, and you got your first look at the Playfield, and you're looking at these images, and you're kind of taking in that promo video, what were some of the things that you thought were cool, or some of the things that you think that most people that are interested in maybe buying the game would appreciate?
I mean, obviously, kind of the interactive toys. I mean, we don't see that a whole lot in a lot of pinball anymore. A lot of times you've got one really big, cool mech that goes on. I mean, there are some exceptions to that where you've got some, really good interactive toys. But, just seeing that mini gun down there that spins, whatever activates it, that looks cool. It's the fact that the helicopter, holds the ball, the blades start spinning. I think some of those things could really add up to, a bunch of little mini moments. Like we discuss this in pinball all the time, that's what we feel, especially now that things have kind of switched over to more of a home environment instead of a location environment, even though I do think it's completely important on a location environment as well. But, just creating those small moments that make you feel more that you're a part of the movie is so important. And, just from this early on stuff and seeing some of the toys and stuff that they did, I feel like that they've went that direction.
Yeah, and I would agree. This is actually a wide body game, and that could be a polarizing topic for some people, some that prefer wide bodies, some that don't, and some that are impartial. Personally, I've always enjoyed a good wide body. The issue being you need to be able to utilize that space properly so that you're not, putting up a flub. It's got to shoot well. And with this being a 3-flipper game, you've got 4 ramps. What are your thoughts on wide body in general?
I'm mixed. I mean, I'm kind of like I don't know. Like I think that when you create a wide body, because something like Demo Man, I think shoots phenomenally. Evil Dead shoots very well, but there are some games out there that don't shoot so well, that are wide bodies. And I think that when you're designing a wide body, you leave yourself more open to failure than what you do designing a standard body, just because those games can tend to be so floaty. The shots can tend to be, they tend to be a little less satisfactory sometimes. So I think that you just open yourself up a little bit more to having a game that doesn't shoot so well. But that doesn't, just because it's a wide body doesn't equate to that necessarily, if that makes sense to you.
Well, on the flip side, you've got a wide body game, and it could be because it's just packed to the gills. So, something that looks.
Yeah, you have a little bit more room to design.
Yeah.
And it's really nice off of this. I know we're not getting into each individual shot and everything, but, it looks like there's 3 or 4 shots off of that third flipper. They all look satisfying, which is nice, because a lot of times when people throw a third or fourth flipper into a game, you just got something that just, you're hitting 1 shot repetitively, maybe 2 or something. So it really looks like that they utilize that wide body, because I like a third flipper shot on a wide body a little bit more than what I do a standard body. You got a little bit more breathing room up there for that third flipper shot. So, it's kind of nice that they utilize that a little bit more with this wide body.
So we were talking about some of the mechs. You do have that interactive choppa, and that is a physical ball lock, and it looks like the propeller begins to spin when it needs to. So I think that's cool. People like to see movement, and whenever you can stop the ball to present something and create a moment, I think that's always interesting for sure.
Agreed.
You do have the interactive attacking predator, and it's kind of right in the middle of the playfield, and it looks like it can pop up and go back down. It looks like it's interactive, not in the sense that it is a bash toy, but that it's reactive after the ball hits a target.
Well, that was something that kind of stood out to me, Ken. Like I'm kind of mixed on it. I kind of want to know your thoughts on this too. I'm looking at that Predator, and you look at everything else, and there is not that one visual, other than, I'll get into this in a minute, something off to the left there that kind of throws me off a little bit. But, you almost expect that Predator to be maybe a little larger, be a little bit more interactive, but at the same time, like, he's kind of to scale with everything. There's so many times that you get off and things aren't to scale. What's your thoughts on that? Do you like the proportionalism of him in the size he is?
Yeah,
and everything?
I think it's,
did you think we needed a bigger Predator helmet, a face, that snarled? Did you think we needed any of that, or did they go the right direction with this?
I think it's fine. My first impression is that it's fine, and then maybe it presents differently when I stand over the game in person. I've never been a really big fan of an extremely large head on a playfield, whether it's Red Ted or Rudy or anything like that. It's just it looks out of proportion to me. So to have him kind of running around or being interactive in his natural habitat of the jungle, I do think that it makes sense.
Yeah, I personally agree.
I don't know.
I agree too. Like that. That's mine, because I almost wonder if that'll throw some people off and if that'll do something. But to me, I completely agree with you. That's where my mind is as well.
I mean, if you want to see a big predator head, just look up on the back box. His head's sitting right there.
I
looking
agree.
at you. So
I agree. I will tell you something.
It's fine with me.
That did to kind of not be a Debbie Downer on it at all. But that the whole sculpt thing, and I can't tell what it covers, but almost the jungle hut with the car over there.
That is the truck in Rebel Camp with exploding light show is how it's detailed on the flyer.
And I'm sure it'll look cool, the exploding light show, but it just looks so out of place because Predator looks normal. You've got the minigun that looks normal. The chopper looks normal. I'm not saying that they're hyper detailed. I'm not saying that they're, just the best sculpts or toys in the entire world. But when you get to that weird little set, it looks like somebody created a clay diorama for their school project almost. Like I hate to say that.
Is that what it looks like?
It's just out of place.
Okay.
Do you not agree? Like, look at the truck. It looks like a cartoon truck. It looks like a vehicle out of Roger Rabbit or something.
Sure. I do kind of see, I didn't catch it at first and, kind of giving it a second glance over. It does look like it's out of place. It almost looks like it's more symbolic of what it should be versus what it actually is. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, and I don't even know that's the right way to describe it. But yeah, it does look a little bit off with the rest of the detail that was kind of paid to the rest of the sculpt.
Yeah, it's just kind of odd to me. Hey, not a deal breaker. It's fine. I'm sure when it lights up, it looks cool. And, the great thing is things like that, I don't know how interactive it is or how it encompasses in the game, but maybe it's something that you can swap out. Somebody creates a little bit more realistic mod. But,
wow. Yeah. Well, the mod community is fierce and fearless.
Yeah. You can't have all the good without some of the bad, and that's just some of the bad. That's just one thing that stood out to me, because honestly, like, I don't have a lot of critique, from first impressions of this game, other than I wish that it had Arnold.
Yeah.
There's not much that I'm sitting here and I look at on that game and say, oh wow, this was underwhelming, or something else. It actually it exceeded my expectations, but that one thing was something that catches my eye repetitively, and I'm like, why are you putting that in there? We didn't really need that.
No, it's completely fair. I can see where you're coming from for sure. The one thing that kind of caught my eye is kind of coming from the lower left-hand side of the playfield. And this is, look, I'm a sucker for light shows. And when light shows can create a moment, or they can make you kind of look directly into what they're trying to convey to you as far as messaging, I think that's important. And it's the old painless minigun, which spins and shoots with muzzle flashes. And I think it creates a cool effect. And it's kind of the strobe effect that comes from that area of the playfield. I'm not sure if those lights are actually from within the minigun or if they're coming from an area underneath the minigun, but it shoots away from the player and it lights up the left side of the playfield. And it reminded me of a pinball moment in one of my favorite games, Attack from Mars, when you hit like that strobe light multi-ball. The whole playfield goes dark and it just starts strobing, and it's just a cool effect. The whole playfield's not going dark, at least in the promo video, but in that area, it really draws your attention, and you've got movement on the minigun, and I think
it is cool, dude.
Cool
we need more of that in pinball. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not disappointed about anything that I've seen. And they even did something as small. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, but just like even doing the netting over that right wire form. I don't know if that's the net that, like, I remember in the movie they tried to capture Predator in a net. So I don't know if it's that net or if it's like the fish net that he wears over his body. Which it's always been weird.
Funny that you brought up the net. because for whatever reason, this is going to sound ridiculous, and I was reluctant to bring it up because I didn't want anybody to question my credibility on critiquing games. But for whatever reason, I thought the net was kind of a cool
I think it's
thing.
cool. I do
just
too.
a nice little touch. Like, it's kind of like an organic thing in the lower right. It's simple, but it's effective, and I noticed it. I thought it was
like
a
I
cool
said,
touch.
like they didn't have to add it. It's just like you said, it's a nice touch. I like it. I don't care if it's his fishnet bodywear or if it's the net they try to catch him in. Either way, it visually, it's something added to it that fits. I mean, I'm not mad at it.
And it's not an $89 add-on that you have to buy after the fact.
Agree.
So you get the free net,
dude. And just coming kind of full circle. Like what do you think? And again, you'd expressed this, and you said that it's definitely not the route that we're going to go with this show of just laying out every shot. But just a real quick thing from your perspective. What do you think about the shots? Just a real quick generalization of seeing the layout and seeing everything. Like, what do you feel about it? Where are you at?
Yeah, so, full transparency, from a top-down view, you can kind of visualize shots, and the layout looks like it would be satisfying, for the lack of a better term. Again, watching the promo video and how it was cut up, it's a lot of close-ups and it's a lot of highlights, so it's real hard to say exactly how it shoots. And I think at the end of the day, and not to kind of bypass your question, it would be really hard for me to begin to speculate if I thought that this was going to be a great shooting pinball machine or not. But it doesn't look like it's sloppy. It looks like the geometry would make sense. Like you said earlier, it looks like you've got some nice shots from the upper right flipper. And there's nothing less satisfying than having like a repeatable loop shot from an upper right flipper that's just clunky and isn't consistent. It'll drive you up the wall because you want to have something like that consistent. So I will refrain from getting deep into how it shoots, but there's nothing that was glaring to me that looked like it would impede your ability to shoot well. I don't know how you feel.
I couldn't have said it better. I feel the same way. There's nothing, just visually looking at it without seeing gameplay that throws me off and makes me think that this is not going to be a fun game. And again, back to the whole world under glass type thing and the way that Alien encompassed, I obviously want this to shoot a little better than Alien and everything. But if they have, a good rule set on top of this and it just shoots, so let's just say, it shoots good. It shoots good. It's not Keith Elwin. You're not blown away by it, but this shoots good. And they do some good code that really makes you feel like, that whole world that you're living in, that predator environment of that jungle. And they can encompass these modes and give you moments like what we talked about. If they really throw that minigun in there and the helicopter and just some of these moments, and they can create those in this code. I think this could be a game that takes us all by surprise.
Sure.
Just from that. Now, again, there's a lot. You got to have good shots. Hey, they don't have to be great. But the code, call-outs, everything else, it's pinball. It takes all those things to make a great game. Some of them can, vary in degree, but, it's still a whole package. So, I guess we'll see in the coming weeks on what this game really gives us.
And that's exciting. We've got enough here, though, to kind of get that first impression, and that's going to be, it is what it is at that point. Before we go into pricing and how you can order your game, though, there's one other thing that we left off, and it comes from the bottom part of below the playfield from the player perspective, and that's the apron, right? So what is going on?
Thank you for bringing that, because I almost forgot about it. It's honestly one of the coolest things. It's I don't even know what it's called. What do they call it on the flyer?
It's the fully lit and interactive Yauta.
Yeah, so it's basically his digital display. It's how he communicates. It's like, to me, I always looked at it as like a smartwatch. That he had
the first one in its day, right?
And that's what we were discussing before. Is that an alpha numeric display on there, or how did they create that? Because in the trailer, it looks like it's moving. It looks like it's interactive in some way to the code or the game. So it's just another one of those, like, attention to detail sort of things that they didn't have to do. That's just super cool that they put in there. And what better spot than an apron that's just normally there's nothing going on. Yeah, it's fun. I think that what I liked about it too is that it's not it's a cool area to kind of have something catch your attention or catch your eye, but doesn't look like it's too distracting where it would pull you away from concentrating on the ball, because you're looking in that flipper area so often.
And for better or worse, that apron area is usually not very utilized. It's a little underutilized, and I just think they did something that was tasteful and was on point with the theme.
Well,
and
I think it's an overlooked thing. It's easy to look at the minigun. It's easy to look at the helicopter. It's easy to look at Predator going up and down. But I think I would assume that this is going to pop up or do things during certain modes. So to me, it's just another one of those moment type things to where whatever hopefully it corresponds on the screen or does something else and it's going off. So now you're looking down at that apron, you're looking at the screen. You know what I'm saying? It creates a moment that makes you feel like you're part of that world again.
So let's do that. Let's get into pricing real quick. We'll let people know how they can order the game. We'll wrap this up because I have a feeling that we'll be getting more information here in the coming days, and we can jump back on, and maybe opinion changes, or we can provide an update. But typically, what you're looking at to order the game, you're at $10,995, which includes everything that we were talking about as far as the features. Now, there is a trophy package, which is an upgrade package, and that's kind of what we're looking at from the flyer perspective. And that Predator trophy package is going to offer you the Starry Green Jungle Warfare trim. So if you're into armor and you like that lollipop style with a nice cutout around the button area, that is included in the trophy package, along with the shaker motor, Invisiglass, backbox mission lighting, which I'm not sure what that is yet, limited game exclusive Predator poster, Predator merch package, and then you've got a jungle service kit. So that all it's kind of the upper tier add-on package. Now, there are a few other variables that are going to come into the pricing, and not necessarily with the price of the machine itself, but when you order the game, there are a few other things that you're going to want to consider. Mostly that's going to be involving shipping, and in this instance, tariffs. And I don't know, Greg, if you wanted to kind of cover how that works, but we just want to offer all the information with full transparency.
Yeah, so basically, with this game coming from overseas, there's going to be a $500 air freight charge, and then we're looking at a $600 tariff/duty import fee on these as well. And then once they hit our docks, then there will be the normal shipping charge that will come from Flip N Out to you. Those obviously vary depending on where you are in the continental United States. Always feel free to email or message me or Ken on those. Both me and Ken we can be reached at Ken at Flip the letter N out pinball.com, or Greg GREG at Flip the letter N out pinball.com, and we'll get you guys a shipping quote from us to you in there. Also any sales stuff in there, if you guys are interested in one of these games, shoot either Ken or I, a message. You got any questions or anything about the game, any other games, we're more than happy to help you out. This is fairly early on. We don't know a lot about production schedule. We don't know a lot about allotment, how they're going to distribute games to distributors, what that allocation is going to be, build time. We're not sure if these are on the line or anything yet. Everything is so early on with the game just dropping,
right?
But we'll try to answer those questions. We'll try to get you answers to those questions when we can, that sort of thing. So just, again, don't hesitate to email either one of us with anything that you need.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. So just quick recap, you're at $10,995 for the base model Predator. You've got $500 fee to kind of bring it over here via the air freight. Then you've got the $600 tariff. Now, the $600 tariff fees is something that I wanted to bring up because when we were talking to Zach earlier, there was some concern about if the tariff fee fluctuates and let's say the tariff percentage fluctuates and it goes up, Zach has capped that tariff fee at $600. So it sounds like, in the unfortunate circumstance, if there was going to be an increase in the tariff, Flip N Out Pinball would have your back on that. And then once it gets here domestically, just like you said, whatever normal shipping rates are, whether you're picking up or we're shipping to your home, we get you a quote on that. But yeah, I don't know. Listen, I wasn't sure what to expect when the game came out. I'm always happy to see new pinball. I think new pinball is great for competition. It's great for the enthusiast. And, up to now, this game hasn't disappointed me. It's probably surpassed what my expectations were. Not that my expectations were low.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, man. And you go into something like this just because, that basically had Alien sort of designed for them when they took the company over and so forth. And you had ABBA and Queen, they just weren't necessarily my themes, but the games didn't shoot terrible or anything. So when I heard about a theme like Predator that I was actually interested in, I was like, okay, let's see what they can do with a what I consider a pretty big title. So let's see what they can do. And I'm just like you, like, it surpassed my expectations, actually. So I'm not mad, man. I'm excited to get my hands on one. Can't wait to see some gameplay video of it and see what all goes on.
Yeah, I'm the same. Let's see what happens here. Again, it's early on, but we were excited to bring you this information and try to help you share in the launch. And we're just excited to get a new game to you as you are to get a new game. You have anything you want to add there, Greg?
Yeah. Get to Flip N Out Pinball and put your order in.
Whatever you
order it now.
For Greg Bone, I'm Ken Cromwell. Don't forget to take some time out of your day and play some pinball. So long, everybody.